Well, hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Caio. I'm back here to present this paper for us to discuss, and it's called SciAgents, and it proposes a framework for automating scientific discovery. I was thinking about bringing this to discussion because right now we have access to AI models that are really good on compiling knowledge, existing knowledge, and that might serve well as sources for us to search on and like get knowledge that would be available like spread across thousands of places, and it centralizes very well knowledge. But I was thinking what advances we have right now on the direction of bringing new knowledge to the table and like making actual scientific discoveries based on the knowledge we already have. And this paper brings a nice discussion. There are other initiatives on this direction. I chose this one. And it was written by Alireza Ghafarollahi, I don't know how to pronounce this, and Markus Buehler from MIT. So let's do this. To begin with, let's start with a brief introduction. And like, I think it makes sense for us to think about scientific method before starting discussing the paper per se. Like, if you remember, scientific method is made up of several steps. And the first one would be observation. We have nature, we see stuff, and like we observe what happens and learn and identify patterns and stuff. And given the observation, it might bring questions like, how does this work? Why does it happen this way? Why doesn't this happen this other way? So observation raises some questions, and that's the second step of scientific method. And after those questions, we have the hypothesis. That is like, we make a guess of a response for the questions we have. And to test those hypotheses, we can make experiments. We can test nature, like in a controlled manner, intentionally, for us to check if our guess to respond to the question is correct. But it doesn't stop at testing. We have to analyze the results. And we analyze the result, we check if our hypothesis is true, and sometimes we have to go back to the hypothesis, revisit it, and it might be a loop sometimes. But at some point, we are glad with our conclusions. We see that there is nothing, there is no reason to get experimenting again. Our hypothesis might be valid or not, and it brings a conclusion. So this is the regular like pipeline for scientific methods. It can happen like in various different ways depending on the field you are thinking about and you are trying to learn about. But it's basically like this that things work. And this paper focuses on one specific part of this pipeline, that is the hypothesis. Right now, as I said, we have plenty of knowledge available. AI can compile this knowledge. And the goal of this paper is to use the current knowledge to bring new knowledge to the table. So thinking about the hypothesis. Right now, when we think of scientific methods like led by humans, it can be constrained because it's like a guess that humans make to respond to questions that search based on observation. And those questions are constrained to researchers' creativity to respond those questions. In their background knowledge, maybe they don't know enough about that field to respond. maybe they don't have enough inspiration. There are some scientists that brought some hypotheses that they thought about in dreams. So that's something that might help when trying to create a hypothesis. And also concerned by ingenuity, because like maybe we were not able to see some connections on about different stuff. So this is like the scenario of scientific method when it comes to creating hypotheses. But like, we are not cavemen anymore, right? We don't have to be constrained by those things, because AI can help us go beyond human capability. AI can improve this process of creating hypotheses. And this is what the paper tries to bring to table. So the challenge. The challenge of this project was to achieve a nice level of expertise. You know that like many AI models, they are good at general stuff, but sometimes we need model trained in specific tasks, so we can use it as a specialist in a given field, in a given topic. So that's a challenge. If we are talking about new science discoveries, new scientific theories, it might need a lot of knowledge to bring something new. And this might require extensive and specialized training. So that's something that could be a challenge. Also, hallucination is a problem, because some language models might bring like inaccurate responses to topics that they have not been trained on. So if you ask something brand new to them, they might invent stuff instead of like actually thinking about what you're asking and trying to compile their knowledge to respond this. So that's a tendency that we need to avoid as well. And also concerns about bringing knowledge to science, actually, because this strategy might fall into the error of creating a black box of knowledge. And it's important to know exactly how to reach the response and like have explainability of what is done, transparency, so that it can be reproduced and it can be used as actual knowledge, and not like focusing only on the response, but bringing something for humanity to learn about. So those are the challenges that the paper presents that they had to face. And how do they face those challenges? There are basically two strategies that they use against those challenges, and they are the ontological knowledge graphs that I will explain in a moment, and the multi-agent AI systems. And what are their characteristics? Regarding the ontological knowledge graphs, they bring, they are like graphs. They are based on a lot of papers on a given field, and a knowledge graph is mainly focused on a specific field, and the paper focus on bio-inspired materials. Like, I'm not focusing this presentation on this field, not only because I'm not a specialist in it, but because our goal here is like AI. So I'll try to discuss what they do like AI-wise, and don't go too deep on biological stuff, because I probably would be kind of misleading about this, because I wouldn't know what I would be talking about. So they used a knowledge graph focused on bio-inspired materials that comes from many papers on the field, and it brings a way to do efficient mining of vast scientific data sets. Like, that's a way they found to structure the data they have, and it's easier for the agent to explore the data on the data set if you use graphs. Also, it brings like interconnectedness of different concepts. You can connect nodes of knowledge through the graph approach. And it's also nice so that you can like connect one topic to many others that are related to it, and also transform unstructured natural language from papers into structured data. That's a nice approach in this sense as well. And it brings hypotheses based on real knowledge, so that you can feed the agents with the knowledge, the data that is organized and structured on the graphs. Also, the other thing they use to face those challenges I was talking about are multi-agent AI systems. That is, there is not only one AI agent focused on the entire process. As you might know, when we study like science in school or college, sometimes we like to relate one scientific discovery to one specific scientist. We say, Einstein is the inventor of relativity, and like you might remember other examples. And right now in science, it's not exactly like this anymore. Scientific discovery usually involve collaborations of scientists and many people working together. And for I think it's interesting that it works the same way for AI agents as well. Like one AI agent will not be enough to bring actual specialization in everything you need for a scientific discovery. So you need many steps for bringing a new hypothesis, a new theory. So it's better to use different agents for different purposes, so that each one is specialized in one step. And it's good because you can like make each of them very specialized in a different ability, and then pull their different abilities to employ in the project. So it works better this way. All right. Regarding the methodology of what they do, they use two different approaches for this process and this project about thinking of new hypotheses. Here on the first approach, you can see the knowledge graph and a path connecting to different nodes. And the focus of this first approach is that interactions between agents are pre-programmed, they are predefined, so that every time you run a different time, a different test, a different run, the steps are the same, so that each agent will have their role predefined and their interaction will be predefined as well. And it ensures consistency and reliability of the hypothesis generation, but it can be a little strict as well, because there's no flexibility depending on what comes from the agent response. And the second approach is something more flexible. The agent interactions are automated, and there is no predefined order. There is a planner. I will explain more detail the different agents, but like there is an agent focused on organizing, there is one agent focused on tool calling and stuff. And it also includes human in the loop interactions. So it's nice because like it's more flexible, and it responds to the content that is brought by the agents. Also, it's more robust to add new tools, as you see in a bit. All right, about the path generation. As I said, the knowledge graph is not produced in this research that the paper produces, the paper shows. It refers to a previous project, and the author of the previous project is one of the authors of this one. That is Markus Buehler. The reference is right here if you want to take a look. And in this paper, they discuss in more detail the generation of this knowledge graph. I myself am not a specialist in graphs either, so I'm not sure about the details of this graph generation, but if anyone wants to take a look at this, this is the reference. And it enabled the exploration of hypotheses that seemed disconnected because you can create paths between different concepts that in those graphs are the nodes, and find ways to connect them through the knowledge you already have, but you didn't know how to connect them in this way before. And they have like 33,000 nodes, 48,000 edges, and they use it around 1,000 papers to generate this graph. And the LLM here in the SciAgents is not provided with the entire knowledge graph. It is provided with a subgraph derived from it. And it depicts a pathway that connects two specific concepts. That is, before you start the research, you provide two concepts, you generate a subgraph connecting those concepts, and then explore on top of that. And those two concepts, they can be specified by the user. That is, I can find in the example they give in the paper. They use silk and energy-intensive materials, so they want to find a connection between silk and energy-intensive, and they provide this to the subgraph and generate the path, and then present it to the LLM. But it can be selected randomly as well. You can pick two concepts randomly and find the subgraph and explore this. And in the original project, they used the shortest path to connect the two concepts. But in this paper, they choose a random path, which is really nice because it's more open to like innovation and like crazy possibilities to connect the concepts. And here is an example. As I said, here in green, there is silk, and in red, energy intensive. And in on the right, you can see the shortest path between those. And in the left, you can see like the random path that they created in the SciAgents paper. And if you read the paper, you know that the main discovery they made was the connection between silk and dandelion to create energy-intensive materials. Like, it was super nice, and like, I'm not a specialist in bio-inspired materials, but as they said, it was like a very interesting discovery because the result was pretty good and it was very reasonable to implement. So it was not, this connection was not present in the shortest path approach. So like now the agent roles, that is our focus here. The first one is the ontologist, and the role of the ontologist is to define the concepts and relationships based on the subgraph. That is, in the subgraph, you have like broad connections between the concepts, and the goal of the ontologist is to go deeper in this. They explore the connections and generate definitions of those concepts and go deeper in the relationships of each node that is each node, and each node is a concept. So the goal is like to take the result of the subgraph and go deeper on it. The second one would be the scientist one, as they call, and the scientist one is the one that crafts a research proposal. They get the result from the ontologist and try to propose something new. In this example I showed here, the ontologist would like define very well each node and their connections and their relationships, and the scientist one would be the one that would say, maybe silk and dandelion would be a nice combination, for example. So scientist 2 is the one that expands and refines the proposal. It's like pretty much similar to the first one, but like it's used like to go deeper, go further on the hypothesis. And there is also the critic that is responsible to review if you have any contact with like the academic field, you know that the review part is very important for publications and for the approval of new theories. So there is also a critic in this this project as well, and it can suggest improvements to the proposal, and like especially in the second approach that I showed with the interactions, it can bring some loops and some iterations with the other agents. And those agents, they are present in both approaches, the first and the second, but there are some that are included only on the second. And one of them is the planner, and it's like a task manager. It defines what each agent is going to do, basically. There is also the assistant. The assistant in the paper, it's responsible for checking the novelty of the research generated, the hypothesis generated, but it can be like more than this. It doesn't have to be constrained to that. So as I said, I put here on parentheses, it's like a tool calling agents, like you can add new tools. That's why I said before that the second approach is more friendly for addition of tools, because this agent is responsible for this and it's not included on the first approach. And also the group chat manager. It's the one that orchestrates the interactions between the agents. It says who is going to speak next and broadcasts the response to the whole group. And it's very nice because each one have access to the memory of the interaction of the entire group. So moving forward, the results and conclusions from the paper. In the first approach, the agents only receive a filtered subset of information from the previous interactions, while, as I said, we have the group chat manager in the second approach. It allows them to have a shared memory so that they have access to the content generated in the previous interactions, and like it makes it possible to have some more contextualized responses and better responses and better results as well. Like the agents, they can autonomously generate and critique and refine scientific hypotheses, and this is like a very big thing when you remember the discussion we had before about the constraints in hypothesis proposal. Having AI to help us bring new ideas to the table is very, very powerful. It's a powerful tool, and having them able like to interact between themselves is also very promising. And it's nice that the integration of tools can make sure we have checked the novelty of the proposal, like so that we compare the proposal with existing literature to make sure that like the ideas are innovative and there's no redundancy with prior research, so that we make sure the hypothesis suggested is actually relevant to the field. And the final one, and for me, this is the key part, and something that I'm excited to check the next steps, is the future work that they propose that would be the other steps of the scientific method. That is conducting experimentation, soliciting data from simulation studies, maybe conducting experiments with AI. It would be nice as well. So, like, right now we have observation and questions in this framework. They are maybe brought by humans. Hypothesis is being discussed and proposed by AI, and the rest is also with humans. So it's already very powerful to have AI helping in parts of the pipeline, but I think it would be very nice to have AI participating, not necessarily as a substitution of human participation in scientific method, but as an improvement, an increment for scientific discoveries. I think it would be very powerful, especially in the experimentation part. And I'm very excited to see what comes next on this field. And that's it. I think we can maybe discuss a little bit if you have ideas and insights about, and thank you very much.
Very nice, Caio. I think the paper is very interesting. I think this idea, right, how to merge the usage of agents and also how to transform knowledge, right? I have a question for you, like this paper, like you mentioned, like it tried to get like some relationships between like concepts, more in relation, I think, to material science, right? So like have like silk and some property. I would like to, like, your opinion as, you know, antimatter specialist. Like, what do you think? Like, this could be an approach that you think could be interesting, like fields like physics or things like that. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, like I was thinking about this because I don't have it clear on my mind what a knowledge graph would look like in particle physics, because some things, like they don't come from previous knowledge, they come from experimental results as well. So I think it works really nice in their field, and I'm not sure if there is other work I didn't find using knowledge graphs in another field, but I think, like, besides the knowledge graph approach, I think the agentic system is something more generalizable. And how to structure the data, I think that's the real challenge. I think it's very promising, the idea of the ontological knowledge graphs. Not sure if it's applicable to every field, but at least the SciAgents per se, the scientific agent project, it's easier for me to see how to apply this, but I'm not sure about the graphs. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and another thing is like about the knowledge graph, right? Because it's kind of like a hive mind, right? It's and I agree with you, like maybe for material science, like you have, it's very broad, the field, right? And then you have very specifics for each element and then properties, and maybe other fields, maybe a knowledge graph would not be that large, right? But maybe that could be an interesting idea, right? But I think like using knowledge graphs could be like maybe not in the sense of this paper, because I think like the paper mentioned like some of the paths, right? And then like it's like it's concepts, and then you have like the type of relationship, right? So maybe instead of that could be more, the relationships could be more, I don't know, more soft in some way, and then we could try to build like a hive mind of concepts, and then instead of linking them together, just saying like what we can get.
Yeah, like also to generate the knowledge graph, they use embeddings of natural language. And I'm not sure if every field is that easy, like to organize the knowledge with natural language, exactly like with text and embeddings. Some stuff are more structured with numbers and values and results. So I don't know, maybe, yeah, I don't know how this embedding would work for a less for a field that uses less words to bring knowledge, but like maybe numbers and formulas, maybe other approach would work even better.
Yeah, because I think like I have like some sometimes I talk with like the LLMs, right, Claude and the others, and then I have like some I don't know, maybe it's out of curiosity, and then I have like some idea, and then I mention to it, and then sometimes Claude is able to get like, oh yeah, I understand what you're saying. This is very similar to this concept, and then I go deep into that concept, and then try to form bridges, right? Which is kind of like it's the human doing that, right? So it's not that autonomous. But I think it's kind of like that. I think the ideal scenario for instance, I think more like data science case, right? For a SciAgent for data science, right? You have like some ideas and say like, oh, you can use this mathematical concept and then into this topic, and then like how it's able, right? Because the LLM, it has that knowledge, at least on the reply. The hell, like, oh, it's like this and that. But then I don't think like the traditional approach yet, like they had like some like autonomously getting to that, right? If you give a nudge, they are able to get like say, oh yeah, like it's very similar to this one, and then so that. But if you don't give the nudge, try to get autonomously, I'm not so sure how that can happen, right? But I think I think the paper has like some ideas, right, that how we could try to build this, right? Because I think like again, like we're saying, like maybe the knowledge graph is not the best uh, data structure for some cases, but then like the idea of the random graph, like the random path, is something that I think it's also interesting, right? Like maybe I think it reminded me of that book that Pedro loves, right? Why greatness cannot be planned, right? And say like, oh, to get into computer, like we like it was because we got into valves before, but then valves was because of radio and stuff like that. And then someone say, oh, maybe this can use to turn signal on and off, and then this led to computers, etc. It's not because the people were researching to get the computer, right? It's because they had like some things that said, oh, well, actually this and this and this and that made something very good. And maybe that could be our way, right, to try to find this spark, right? Even though like we're not so sure if it's the best structure or not, right? But I think it's interesting, right? Adding like some random nodes and see like if something sticks.
Sure.
Nice. Does anyone have any other questions or comments for Caio?
Yeah, I wanted to understand better like the differences in results of the two approaches they proposed, because they specialize a lot of roles for the parts of the interaction of the LLMs, but I don't think that I got why one would be better than the other, or some roles, like what's the importance of each role for each approach. So this was kind of my question.
Yeah, like they say that the idea itself of using silk and dandelion for generating the material they wanted was brought up by the two approaches. The difference is like how sophisticated the response was. For example, the feasibility discussion of the idea and suggestions, and like some counter arguments, about this use. Like the discussion was more sophisticated with the second approach because of the strategy they use it, but like the hypothesis itself was the same.
And would be like the same roles that would come up with the hypothesis, because on the first, I think the hypothesis is the first scientist. I do not. Okay, and on the second one could be any part because they had this broadcast of messages or something like that.
Yeah, actually, although they broadcast the messages, each one still has a specific role. The difference is like the order that they interact and how this pipeline will be structured between their conversation. So the scientist one still is the one responsible for the first hypothesis. The second one is still responsible for improving the hypothesis. The difference is that it might be extra interactions between the other agents in this process, but their roles are the same in both approaches.
And lastly, do they discuss like the differences, like you said, like there was a difference on the the development of the discussions and how ideas came up, but do they quantify like how much I don't know, lengthier is one approach or costlier compared to the other?
That's a good question. I don't remember if they specified this in the paper. Not sure. I can check it later.
Yeah, no problem. Just curious.